things of yesterday surround me. I yearn for peace and rest. I don't want to end up where you found me. And it echoes in my mind, keeps me awake tonight. Will you cast my sin as far as the east is from the west? And I stand before you now as though I've never said. But today I feel like I'm just one mistake away from you leaving me this way. Jesus, can you show me just how far the east is from the west? 'Cause I can't bear to see the woman I've been rising up in me again. In the arms of your mercy I find rest. 'Cause you know just how far the east is from the west. From one scarred hand to the other. I start the day the war begins in this reminding of myself. And time again, your truth is drowned out by the storm I'm in. Today I feel like I'm just one mistake away from you leaving me this way. Jesus, can you show me just how far the east is from the west? 'Cause I can't bear to see the one I've been rising up in me again. In the arms of your mercy I find rest. You know just how far the east is from the west. One scarred hand to the other. I know you washed me white, turn my darkness into light. I need your peace to get me through this night. I can't live by what I feel, by the truth your word reveals. I'm not holding on to you, 'cause you're holding on to me. You're holding on to me. Jesus, you know just how far the east is from the west. I don't have to see the woman I've been rising up in me again. In the arms of your mercy I find rest. You know just how far the east is from the west. One scarred hand to the other. One scarred hand to the other. One scarred hand to the
Okay, I'm going to try to finish up with Elijah. This is probably the 9th or 10th sermon, I guess, now on 1 Kings and Elijah and his life. And we're going to be preaching out of 2 Kings, the first chapter, verses 1 through 16. After my last message this morning, we saw Ahab and Jezebel they got God's verdict. And they got God's verdict because of the death of Naboth, so that Ahab could have his vineyard. We saw what transpired for him to get that in the way that he did get it. But Ahab repented, and God heard.
Amen.
That's something big right there, and we're going to get into that here in a minute. But immediately, it says that they enjoyed 3 years of peace. No fighting between the countries, just peace. Side note, okay? I think any time when we have Jesus in our hearts and we repent and God forgives, there will be a peace that will come over us. And the Bible has proven this over and over again. Want peace? Get a good dose of God in your life.
Amen.
And you will have peace.
Yes.
I'm going to skip a couple of real good stories about a prophet that stood alone against 400 other prophets of God and his prediction. I'm also going to skip that another king, Ahaziah, that was the son of the wicked Ahab, that the Bible said spiraled himself and Israel into a life of sin, and was even worse than his father, and he made God so angry. The God of Israel, he made him very angry, going past the death of Ahab, right back into the last days of Elijah. So here's where we are this evening. Ahab has just died. And his son, who is now in control, he's sitting on the throne. He got up, he leaned over the balcony, and the balcony gave way and it broke and he fell through the balcony and he landed on the rooftop. So that's what we're going to read about. So if you have your Bibles opened up to 2 Kings, the first chapter, let's just go to verse 1. After Ahab died, Moab rebelled against Israel. One day, Ahaziah fell through the balcony railing on the rooftop of his house in Samaria and was injured. He sent messengers off to consult Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, and I'm going to recover from this accident. God's angel spoke to Elijah the Tishbite. Up on your feet. Go out and meet the messengers of the king of Samaria with this word. Is it because there's no God in Israel that you're running off to consult Beelzebub, god of Ekron? Here's a message from the God you've tried to bypass. You're not going to get out of that bed you're in. You're as good as dead already. So Elijah delivered this message and was gone. The messengers went back. The king said, "So, why are you back so early for? Why are you back so soon? What's going on?" They told him, "A man met us and said, 'Turn around and go back to the king who sent you. Tell him God's message. Is it because there's no God in Israel that you're running off to consult Beelzebub, god of Ekron? You needn't bother. You're not going to get out of that bed you're in. You're as good as dead already." So when Elijah told the king this, the king said, "Tell me more," or when the messengers told the king about this, he said, "Tell me more about this man who you met and said these things to you. What was he like?" And they said he was a hairy, shaggy man, and he was wearing a leather belt. He said, "That's got to be Elijah the Tishbite." The king sent a captain with 50 men to Elijah. Meanwhile, Elijah was sitting. Now I'm reading out of the translation of the Message, and I like the way they put this verse here. So if you're in the NIV or King James, listen to the way that the Message has this. The king sent a captain with 50 men to Elijah. Meanwhile, Elijah was sitting, big as life, on the top of a hill. The captain said, "Oh, holy man, king's orders, come down." Elijah answered the captain of the 50, "If it's true that I'm a holy man, lightning strike you and your 50 men." Out of the blue, lightning struck and incinerated the captain and his 50. The king sent another captain with his 50 men. "Oh, holy man, king's orders, come down and right now." Elijah answered, "If it's true that I'm a holy man, lightning strike you and your 50 men." Immediately a divine lightning bolt struck and incinerated the captain and his 50. Verse 13, the king then sent a third captain with his 50 men. For a third time, a captain with his 50 approached Elijah. This one, I think this one is a little bit smarter. This one fell on his knees in supplication. "O holy man, have respect for my life and the souls of these 50 men. Twice now, lightning from out of the blue has struck and incinerated captains with their 50 men. Please, I beg you, respect my life." The angel of God told Elijah, "Go ahead, don't be afraid." Elijah got up and went down with him to the king. Elijah told the king God's word. "Because you sent messengers to consult Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, as if there were no God in Israel to whom you could pray, you'll never get out of that bed alive. Already you're as good as dead." Verse 17 says, "And he died just as God said he would." So my message to you this evening, we have heard great stories that would be blockbusters if they was to make movies out of them at the theaters because of the action, the content, and the great storylines. But these are real. They are actual events that happened in the lifetime of a great man of God. And keep in mind that this great man of God was human. Now, I've tried to stress that through these nine sermons. He suffered from human frailties. He had tremendous highs. He had devastating lows. But God used him anyways. Here we are, human. We have human frailties. We have tremendous highs in our lives. And we have devastating lows. God still wants to use each and every one of us to impact and change the courses of lives that we encounter for Him.
Amen.
I want you to get this. This is a bold statement. I don't want you to get mad at me, but I think we are a bit more like Ahab, Jezebel, Ahaziah, Moab, and Jehoshaphat than Elijah in our lives. We tend to look elsewhere when we want advice. We go to great lengths of doing things our way. We keep God on a shelf, and when all else has failed, we reach and expect God to solve all the problems that we have created, problems we are facing, and the predicaments that our lives have led us into. It's going to be a short message this evening. I want to end this sermon with the power of God. I want to end Elijah's life where he was and what he was doing. In all these stories and history that we have heard over the past 9 sermons, the Bible states that God told Elijah to do something, and Elijah did it. Even when Elijah was hiding in a cave, God said, "Elijah, go to Damascus." And we didn't hear Elijah say, "No, wise. No, but I need to. No, but I'm not qualified. No, God, I'll do that, but not right now." Elijah got up and did as God told him. In between these stories of Elijah's prophesying, many times it says that after a long while, the voice of God came to Elijah. After a long while, Elijah would hear the voice of God. So this makes me believe that for a lot of Elijah's life, he was doing human stuff. He was living a normal human life and acting as a normal person would be acting. In other words, he was probably living a life much like you and I. God told Elijah about Ahaziah and told him to go meet the messengers and give them this word straight from the mouth of God. Not from Elijah, but straight from the mouth of God. The messengers turned around and they went back and told the king, and he was wondering what they was doing back so fast. They said they met a man. Ahaziah said, "Describe this man to me." And they said he was a very hairy man with a leather belt around his waist. And he immediately said, "Elijah the Tishbite." And I can probably see him probably laying there in that bed. That's Elijah the Tishbite. And I don't know if he knew him. I do know that he has heard of him. But I don't know if he had ever met Elijah the Tishbite. But he probably might have known him from his daddy. His daddy probably told him about Elijah. And how that he kept coming to him. And everything. But he probably heard stories that were told about this holy man of God. But I want you to realize this. Elijah was known as a holy man of God. How are we known in our life? If I would walk up to somebody here in Cold Grove and say, "Tell me about so-and-so," what would they say about us? Would they say, "Wow, that person's a strong Christian. That person is a great man of God, a great woman of God"? What would they say about us? We're known by something. What are we known for? And if we're not known as being a holy man of God or a holy woman of God, wow, let's make some changes in our lives. The king sent 50 men and went to where Elijah was. This holy man of God was sitting on a hill, didn't seem to be worrying about anything. Why? He had God on his side. He knew his God would protect him. Amen. They ordered, "Holy man of God, come down." King's orders. So Elijah, his response, "If I am a holy man of God," and he knew he was, "let lightning, let fire come down and consume you and the 50. Bam. Happened. Something like, I like to throw in here, God was keeping an eye on Elijah. Was looking out for Elijah. God heard and knew what was going on in Elijah's life. And the biggie, God answered Elijah and protected him. Now I want to get back to that in just a couple minutes, okay? Now remember that, just what I said. I want to get back to that. The second time, the same thing. The captain and his 50 men. "Holy man of God, right now, come down, king's orders. If I'm a holy man of God, let lightning come and consume you and your 50. Bam, it happened. The third one, he came. This captain fell on his knees before Elijah and showed a little respect. The angel of God said, "Elijah, don't be afraid. Go with this man and go with this company of men." So Elijah went to the king and said God's word. Wow. Can we go to people and tell them, this is God's word. This is how we need to be acting. This is what we need to be doing. We need to be able to do that also, shouldn't we? God's word. I like that. We do the same. We have God's word, don't we? Yes. We don't need to be afraid. God said it. I believe it. It's true. No mistaking. God is God. Big I-S, as you noticed on the screen. God is God. No mistake. God is God. Yeah. He said, "Because you sent messengers to Beelzebub, like the little g god of Ekron, as if there were no big G god of Israel, you'll never get up from that bed that you're lying in. Already you're as good as dead." No other words, just God's word. Then he turned around and left. Next verse, the very next sentence. "And he died exactly as God's word was spoken by Elijah." very next sentence. Earlier I said we would get back to something. Here it is. God was keeping an eye on Elijah. God was looking out for Elijah. God heard and knew what was going on in Elijah's life. And the biggie, God answered Elijah and protected him. Same God, same omnipotent, loving, protecting God, same ever-present God, same ever-knowing God is looking down right now, will be looking down tomorrow, whenever, wherever you are, and God is keeping an eye on you. God is looking out for you. And God hears and knows what is going on in your life. And the biggie, God answered Elijah and protected him. God will answer your prayers and He will protect you. That's a biggie.
Yes, it is.
If you are His child, if you are His messenger, His man or woman of God, would it be nice to live a life without fear of tomorrow? Would it be nice to not fear the enemy winning time and time again? Man, if we could see that there are more of us than there are of them. If God would open our eyes to the reality of His power and His might and Him backing us up, Him being in front of us, Him taking these fiery darts from us, Him catching them. I was watching something on TV. This guy was shooting a bow and arrow and was shooting at a target, and they had a guy standing up there, and he would shoot that bow and arrow, and he'd reach out and catch it. And that took great reflex. If he was a second early, he would have an arrow through his hand. If he was a second late, he would have hit the target. Our God is always on time, never late, never early, but He's right on time to get those fiery darts from hitting us and piercing us. Our God is a big God that is protecting us. Give us your eyes, God, and let us know your power. Big task ahead, Cold Grove Church of the Nazarene. Win the lost. Bring in those that are hurting, those with needs, and let's give them a good dose of the Holy Spirit. If we go out into this world working for God, He will be where we're at. He will be protecting us. He will know when and where and what is going on in His life. His eye will be upon us. He will be watching us. And those who are living in fear, that are consumed by today and our tomorrows, God's Word. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Wow. Is there anything that we cannot do according to God's Word if we do it in His name? We can do all things. But I'm not a people person. I can't go out and talk to people. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. I used to get up to give my testimony for God. And before I got 3 words out, my voice would be right here, and I'd be crying, and I'd have tears going down. And I'd sit down so defeated. But you know what? I did not let that defeat me. I did not let that hamper me from getting up and talking like a little baby in a high-pitched voice. I wanted to tell people that I loved my God. He was protecting me. He was taking care of me. And He always has, and He always will. And He is right now taking care of us where we are in our life. So is there anything that we cannot do for Christ? No. The Bible says I can do all things through Christ which strengthens me. Now, if I go out on my own, I'll fall on my face. But if God's leading me to do something, He's wanting me to do something, He is going to already be preparing where I'm going and what I'm going to be doing, and He's going to be helping me and protecting me and giving me the strength and the courage to be able to do it. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me.
Amen.
Big task ahead. Starting a new church year. Got empty seats. We need them filled up, don't we? We can do it through Christ. I can do all things through Christ, which strengthens me. Let us stand.